Hey guys, what's up? Kyle from Coz3D here, and today we are starting part 5 of our Coz3D Boba Fett Jetpack build. And just want to go over a few painting techniques with you here today, and we'll dive right into it. So let's get going. Okay, so we're going to dive right into this. I have done a lot of painting off camera because this is a very time-consuming process, and I don't want to film and have to edit all of this. But if you go over a couple parts here real quick with you, I still have some liquid mask in some areas that are covering the base coat of silver that I did. We've also removed the tape that we had. This is the original body right here, so that we can glue those plastic pieces to plastic pieces like I talked about in a previous video. And we're just going to go over some of the basic techniques that I use. So first of all, on the body, very simple. It's sprayed silver before we start, right over the top of the what? Say it, what?
Glazing.
It sprayed silver right over the top of the glazing that we did. Of course, after we hit it with some primer. So primer first, and then we base coat everything in silver. Now, there are a few exceptions to it. For example, the cylinders, these are the top cylinders. I spray these straight white. I add some silver to them later down in the process once everything's assembled, and we'll get to that in a future video perhaps. But today I thought I'd just quickly go over the liquid mask that I use. It's a liquid frisket, and I get this from Hobby Lobby, I believe. It's rather expensive, but it keeps forever. I think that bottle's 5 years old now, but you can see some of the yellowing where I've use that. What I do is I just have a reference photo that I prefer. I've got several reference photos, but this is the battle damage that I prefer personally. So that's the one that I do. It's not over the top. It's not too much, not too little, in my opinion. And we've got that started where this piece, for instance, is painted white. We put some liquid frisket over it, and then I go back with the black airbrush or whatever you want to use and spray around these areas to darken up the whole piece. And then when you remove the frisket, it's pristine white underneath, and then I add some silver in on some of these pieces that have been masked. And that's the process that I'm getting ready to show you today. So I've already started on the lower half of this center tank cover, and it's got a base of silver. And then I go in with my liquid frisket, and I use a couple of different tools that I have got. They're just soft-tipped, rubber-tipped tools. And in this particular case, this is the only piece that I actually go into with some transfer paper. And I have a template for that I got off the dented helmet. And it's marked to where I need to actually go in and frisk it. So I do the outline of that, which you can barely see on here probably, and then I just go in and start masking in these areas very carefully. The good news is, if you don't like where you've masked it or how you've masked it, you can let it dry, you can peel it right off just like so, and reapply. So we'll get a close-up view of this, and you can see what I'm doing exactly. All right, so we're just going to outline all of these parts. Now, I am working off two different references here. I've got my stencil that I'm working off of, as well as an actual photo of the jetpack, so that I can get some of these scratches and lines in the correct place. And this is a long process, but it's very, very haphazard on. Once the stencil is in place, I just want to hit it right in the area. I'm going a little faster than normal here so that you can catch some of what I'm doing, and we're not stuck doing it for hours and hours. All right, so we've got the top of this done here that I hadn't done yet. Difference in color is the fact that it hasn't dried yet. So we've replicated the stencil as best we can at this point. There are some liberties taken and a couple things added that that I have a preference on, that I like on the original kit. And every kit's a little bit different in whatever stage or even shot in the movie that you see. But the next thing we're going to do is move this over to the paint booth, and we're going to give it a nice blue coating on it, and then we'll see where that goes from there. All right, so we're going to let this dry before we get it over to the paint booth. But again, I just want to go back over and say that there is liquid masking on every single piece that I've done so far, and I don't know if it can translate yet to the camera. But each and every piece that I've painted up to this point has masking on it, which you can see the raised bumps. And I'm leaving it on there for now until I get everything painted. And then we're going to do a little bit of weathering with it. Then we'll start peeling it off. But this piece is just like every other piece. Use some reference photos. And if you go to the dentedhelmet.com, you can find a lot of reference photos there, depending upon how beat up you want to make your jetpack. But it's all about layering, and the silver is going to come through as paint chipped off of it, the base silver, and it just adds a lot to your weathering process on these projects. So let's move to the paint booth. Got the airbrush out, and we're going to add some black to this now with some weathering. We've got everything painted off camera. I did some partial assembly. I went on ahead and inserted our caps or tubes in here, our side tank tubes that are in there. Just use some epoxy, real quick and easy. The next part that we're going to do is we are going to peel off our masking tape that we had on here. And then we're going to glue this side panel on. I've already done this side prior to filming. This is one of my favorite parts to do, is getting to take tape off. All right, so that one's ready to go. We'll go ahead and get this one prepped as well. Again, I just left all the masking on there for where the piano keys will be. And I've still got some masking on here, some liquid mask that we'll remove as we get this part on there. So let's grab our super glue and grab our accelerator. Make sure that there's no burrs on this. There's a couple burrs, so I'm going to run over to the sander real quick and just get those knocked off so that we get a nice flush fit on there. All right, let's get to gluing. Actually going to put the glue on the part here. Get it close to the edges, not all the way to the edges. Don't want any squeeze out. Already dry fitted this piece, so I know that it is going to fit correctly. That's why I had to go to the sander and knock off a couple burrs on there, which does happen when you're 3D printing. So I'm going to start with it all the way up in the top here, and it should just sit naturally where it wants to sit. Up next to the top plate, up next to the tank. Make sure we keep some pressure on that for a minute. We'll get a nice bite on it, and then we're going to come in with some accelerator. Drop some in there. Get that glue to harden a little quicker. Now that we've got that piece down, we're going to move over to this other one. And we just rinse and repeat. Anywhere that it makes contact, we're going to get some glue on it. And we are going to very carefully drop that in there. Hold that for a few seconds. I'm putting some pressure on it just to keep it, make sure that it's flattened out real nice and everything's touching where it needs to touch. And we'll just drop some accelerator in there. I get these off of, I just use Instacure in these. I get these off of Etsy in little bottles. They come in super handy instead of spraying all over the place and getting it all over your nice paint job that you're working on. And there we go. We've got a good stick on that. So that's where we are. Off camera, I also have installed the access door with some magnets. So that stays in now. And we're going to move on to this part here in the center. Set that out of the way. Get my cap on my glue. And now comes the fun part again. We get to remove this masking. So I'm going to show you what it looks like after we've masked it. We've sprayed it with some blue that we're going for and some black. There's still some weathering to do to it, but this liquid mask just peels right off there. One other thing I might note is that I actually did give it a clear, very thin clear coat of matte, just to make sure that all of my black airbrush paint that I sprayed on there stuck real well. And we'll just keep peeling here. But it achieves a very nice chipped look, obviously, because you're adding layers of paint to it. I'll go back and get all these little chips out in a minute. Another quick thing that I want to do just to add some realism to it is I do like to take a, I've got an ice pick, or you can use just a sharp object of some kind, and I'll set it somewhere off to the side. I use this, and I do like to go in and just add a few light scratches to it. We're not going deep on it. It just adds a little bit more realism to it. And there you have it. That is pretty much where we are on the centerpiece now. So we're going to move over and get that ready to be glued in. Alright, we'll get this seated in here. Of course, as I always say, make sure you dry fit everything before you do it. I did not dry fit this one as well as I should have because I've got it's bound up on something there, but we're good now. So we're just going to hold this down and let that hopefully get a good grab. And then we're going to come in with some accelerator. Alright, let that dry up and then make sure we have a good hold on that, which I believe we do. And we are almost there, so we're to the rocket part. The thrusters are ready to be screwed in at any time, and I've got those finished as well. So that's pretty much it. The only thing that we do have left on this build, which I probably won't film, but that's going to be the piano keys still have to go on, and I do have a little bit more weathering to do here and there. Nothing too major, just dirtying up a little bit. Make sure I got all the scratches, the pertinent scratches in there that we want. But that's pretty much it for this build. So appreciate you sticking with us. I know this is a long series, and you know, make sure you like and subscribe and drop a comment below and let us know what you want to see us work on next, and we'll see you in the next video.